There's new polling data out right now, and it looks like President Donald Trump will win in November by a landslide. And it's not just me saying that, of course. It's Rasmussen reports just going through their data and making that argument, of course. And well, there's really so many polls that you could reflect on to see that President Trump is extremely favorable amongst the American people. And he's changing minds of those who maybe didn't like him back in 2020. And now they're looking to support him in November. Let's take a look at the first poll that caught my eye. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? 39% of people said yes. 54% said no, while 7% said not sure. And then the next poll was very interesting. Is the country headed in the right direction, or has it gotten on the wrong track? 27% said right direction, while 67% said wrong track, and 5% said they're not sure. Joining us to detail all of this, of course, is Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports. Mark, this is incredible. And I also wanted to point our audience, because you go into detail about this, to your YouTube page. That's where you're going and doing deep dives into all of these polling data that you're getting, and it's incredible. So I want to recommend our audience to head over to your YouTube page and subscribe to that. But I also wanted to get your take on this. It looks like the data that's coming into you guys, President Trump is going to win by a landslide in November because Joe Biden's just really that unlikable. Is that correct?
That's what it looks like now. And of course, knock on wood, there can always be a black swan event. And, I'm sure our detractors will be there to point it out. There's more to polling. Some of your viewers may not be as familiar to the industry. There's more than polling than just going out and asking the direct matchups that you'd see on Real Clear Politics. And like you said, I just did a video that I titled The Top 5 Reasons That Donald Trump is Running Away with the Election Right Now. And what we want to understand why Trump is up so big. And so there's a ton of different questions we ask. And one of them is that perennial favorite one that was coined by Ronald Reagan in his debate with Jimmy Carter. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And the answer by 15-point margin is a resounding no. So Joe Biden's handlers might tell him that he did a great job of fixing the economy. But the truth is that compared to 4 years ago, when we were at the height of the pandemic, people are hurting, and it's almost every demographic. The only people that actually say that they're better off than they were 4 years ago, I think they're lying. Like, it's only 60% of Democrats, but it's people with incomes over 200K, people with graduate degrees, and Biden strong supporters. 87% of Biden strong approvers said they're better off than they were 4 years ago. And I think maybe they're being honest. And what is better about it is that they're guys in the White House, and that's all they care about. But then that other question, right direction, wrong track, we ask that every night our entire history of polling. And I'll tell you, those numbers are way worse than 4 years ago. They're 17 points worse. And 4 years ago, the numbers I'm comparing to were like literally May of 2020, when nightly news had people dying on TV, and all the toilet paper was stuck in ports, and the supply chains weren't working. So like, our country is in a worse spot than that. And so when we put a poll out there that shows that right now in a 5-way matchup, Donald Trump is beating Joe Biden by an astounding 12 points, and then people point at us and mock us and call us an outlier, of course, then CNN comes out with Trump up 9, and other pollsters come out like reaffirming that, we're leading from the front because we poll so frequently. And it's hard to believe Trump isn't winning by that amount.
Yeah. If you talk to the American people, everyone's had enough of this. I mean, you gave a great example, the pandemic. I mean, that was something that was out of President Trump's control. And yet, for some reason, people were still happier with the direction our country was going in than what's going on now. So I think that's pretty telling. But you mentioned the economy, and I wanted to bring up this poll because I think it's really important. Because what political party do you trust more to handle the economy? 39% said Democrats, 51% said Republicans, and 9% not sure. For Republicans as a whole, do you think that this is going to be a major issue for them, and that they're going to be able to actually bank in on all of the horrific decisions that Democrats have made financially for this country?
The Republicans are winning on every issue that matters, I think is the right way to say this. If you ask Republicans what issues they care about, it's the economy and the border. If you ask independents, the economy and the border. If you ask Democrats, it's abortion, right? But on the economy and the border, Republicans are leading by double digits. I think it was 12 points here for the economy. Um, like that matters. And I'll tell you what, Republicans have a horrible brand. So for Republicans to be up that big, we're just in the field right now with the new generic congressional ballot matchup. And it'll be interesting to see if Republicans have a bigger or a smaller lead than Donald Trump does. But I'm pretty sure the math's going to work out that Donald Trump is, the rising tide that lifts all boats on the ticket. Because people, especially Republicans, have absolutely no faith in their elected Republican congressional leaders and even less faith in the RNC leadership, although, we have yet to see what the new leadership is going to bear out. But, like Republicans are leading in literally almost every issue: violent crime, government corruption, taxes, the border, all of that. I think the only things the Democrats lead on is abortion and climate change, and it's by like 1 to 3 points. And that's like absolutely stunning that in this political environment that you could ask which party do you trust more on climate change, and Republicans like almost high.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's why you see in so many states, like Arizona, for an example, Democrats are really pushing abortion over there because they don't have much to go off of. I mean, most people in Arizona right now are ticked off at their states being invaded. And I guess Arizona Democrats just want to move forward and push this abortion issue, even though it's really not something that Republicans are looking to federalize, and but they're going to keep trying to push that and pretend like it is. I wanted to talk to you about something else I thought it was interesting too, the potential of switching candidates, because I truly believe that Democrats are not going to have Joe Biden on the ballot in November. They're going to do some type of switcheroo because things are just really bad for him right now. Plus, they have the debate starting sooner than typically than what they would normally be. And I think that's strategic to see how bad he would do on the stage. And if they have to pull him, they wanted to do that before it's too late. So I get it. But what is your take on a potential candidate switcheroo? Because it's very, very likely, I think.
That debate throwdown was a really bold move because that announcement he did on Twitter, it was like 14 seconds long and it had 6 cuts. It must have taken them all afternoon. And for them to come out so early in the cycle and have that debate, I think you're right. I think you're onto something because the Trump team doesn't normally get what it wants from the debate commission. But we have been planning, we've seen the switcheroo coming from a long time ago, and we put questions into the field. And we did, we asked people who would be a better Democrat challenger, and do you support replacing Biden? And not that many Democrats support replacing him because, quite frankly, he was successful in beating Donald Trump. Caveat, right? There's a lot to go in there. But when we picked the prominent Democrat leaders that would potentially go in for Joe Biden, it's like Whitmer, Kamala Harris, like Gavin Newsom, and nobody really like floated to the top of that, especially among Democrats. They didn't really support any one individual. And we did head-to-head matchups with Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom, and Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. And not a single one of them did better than Joe Biden except Michelle Obama by 1 point. So the fact is they could throw whoever they want in there. And it's not a necessarily, given that even though Joe Biden's hated and his job approval rating is so low, that in this current climate with the Democrats and what they did for the last 4 years, another candidate would come in and do better. Now, of course, what would happen, right, is there would be this like Obama coronation with white pillars and doves floating down from on high, and this person would get the most favorable media coverage like ever, and they would have a month or two of just this absolute honeymoon and try and sweep any negativity under the rug. And that would probably be effective. But again, with Trump leading by 12 points, they have a long way to go. I think the issue is they want to tighten it up at least to make, what happens at the swing states a little bit more or less overt, I guess is probably the right way to put it.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, I don't underestimate the level of election fraud that they're probably going to try to commit. Because if he's still on that ballot in November, I don't see it going over very well for any of them. And I'm surprised to hear about the Michelle Obama thing. I honestly thought if Michelle Obama's name gets thrown on that ballot last minute, it might be a real challenge to President Trump. So I guess we'll see that play out. I did want to mention another poll that you sent over to me that I think is interesting. Thinking of this year's presidential election, is another civil war more likely to happen if Joe Biden wins or if Donald Trump wins? Or will it not make much difference who wins the election? 37% said Biden wins, 25% said Trump wins, 30% said not much difference, and 8% said not sure. What do you make of that? Because 37% saying that if Biden wins, that there might be a civil war in this country. Do you think that's people thinking that there might be election fraud, or that they're just so kind of brainwashed by the media that they think that the right is going to go after them and attack them?
It's hard to get into the why. I want to step back and talk. The question that preceded it: how likely is it the U.S. will experience a second civil war sometime in the next 5 years? In this political climate, it's awfully easy to be cynical and say, "Oh, that number is probably 80%." Well, the number's 41%, and you can say, "Well, maybe that's low." But when 4 out of 10 voters think that we're going to be shooting each other in less than 5 years, that's actually a pretty horrifying thing. And we've been trying to poll to get at the failing trust in institutions, the increased statism, the weaponization of the justice system, and taking all the intel agencies. And we even came out with 64% of voters think that Mockingbird is real. You know what I mean? So that's the environment we're in. And I think a civil war is something to be absolutely concerned about. And these numbers, there wasn't like a really big standout except for this one particular thing here. So when you look at all voters, people are 12 points more likely to think a civil war is likely if Biden wins than if Trump, right? And the thing is that if you look at who thinks a civil war is more likely, it's Republicans. 54% of Republicans think there's going to be a civil war. It's only 35% of Democrats. But among Republicans, 56% of them think there will be one if Biden wins, but only 15% for Trump. For the Democrats, it's only 37% of Democrats that think a war will be likely if Trump wins. So Democrats don't really think there's going to be a civil war. Republicans do. And Democrats think that, if Trump wins, we lost this one. But the Republicans, I think it's because they see Joe Biden as a figure that ostensibly won through some level of election fraud and is destroying and weaponizing our federal government. And just like the list of things that we wouldn't even think would have been polling about 4 years ago. I polled about Biden approvers wanting to take the unvaccinated children away from them. It was like half of Biden approvers supported that, right? We went in and did the JFK assassination and how likely was the CIA involved, and we got a number in the 40s. This is stuff that we never would have dreamed of asking about 4 years ago, but here we are in Biden's America. So I think that's what's driving the Civil War signal.
Yeah, yeah. And I think most Americans are tired of seeing our federal government going after Americans, targeting them and targeting the former president, because it's very, very obvious what they're all doing. Mark Mitchell, thank you for joining us today. I wanted to redirect our audience again over to your YouTube page. You go into detail about all of these polls. So head over to Rasmussen Reports YouTube page and take a look. You've got tons and tons of content up right now. Again, folks, Rasmussen Reports. Thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate it. We wanted to take a moment to highlight one of our show sponsors, and well, it's a great one. We're talking about My Pillow. Right now, Mike Liddell has some of the best sales going on right now on mypillow.com. And all you have to do is use promo code BRE, that's BRE, to secure these savings. I mean, he has a bunch of items for $25 on his platform right now. So you got to head over to mypillow.com. There's a bunch of new gear that he has just recently put up there. Plus, he has all these $25 items. I mean, he has the Giza pillows. He's got so much towels, sandals. There's so much right now that's on sale for $25. And the only way you can get that is by using promo code BRE. That's BRE. So go over to mypillow.com right now. Check it out. And don't forget, it's BRE, BRE, to secure up to 66% off. And if you enjoyed that segment, make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to see the news before it becomes the news, you have to subscribe to our channel. And well, if you have a liberal friend that you're looking to save, make sure you share this content with them.